Hey fellas, welcome back to another NRL Fantasy Fanatics video. I'm joined as always by Will and a new guest, Jai from Blindside NRL Fantasy. How are you going, mate?
Yeah, dude, cruising. Ready for 2025 to kick off. Hey, how about you guys?
Yeah, yeah, we're pumped. We're ready. Just March can't come sooner.
Yes, I couldn't
Um,
agree more.
so today we've got a bit of a new one. We've got five buys, five avoids, and five pods for you. And the buys will start first, then the avoids, then the pods. So let's kick it off. We've got Terrell May here as our first buy, 670K. Will and Jai, what do you think about him?
You want to start, Will?
Yeah, yeah, I really like Taro. That big body down the middle for the Tigers. I think will do a lot. I think he's going to get around 60 minutes, which I predict him to get 65 to 70 points if he gets that massive minute roll. We all know what he can do over 50 minutes, as you see there, and 59.5 minutes, an average of 67.4. He's a tackle bot. He doesn't miss tackles. He gets tackle bust. He offloads, gains meters, can score tries. I think he pretty much selects himself.
Yeah, couldn't
Yeah,
agree more.
I couldn't
Um,
agree more either, dude. He's the most exciting player for me in fantasy this year. He's been the first in. He's been ahead of Cleary every single time when I clear my team and reselect it. But I think he doesn't get any less than 60 minutes game time to start the season. To start every game for the whole season. He come with a 50 average coming off the bench for the Tigers, the Roosters last year, and he's shown he can play 80 minutes. If he needs to, he can stay on the field. So he's got heaps of potential there. I'm definitely getting him in my team, and he won't be leaving for anyone.
yeah, yeah, he's almost a must-have. Just slot him in and don't worry about him. Next player up, we've got just as big of a buy, Nathan Cleary. Um, 880K, I still think that's an absolute steal for him because he's been at a million plus before. And I've got here filter by halfback. Obviously, his whole career, he averages 65 fantasy points, which is absolutely nuts. He's that kind of guy where you can just slot your captaincy on him and just don't worry about it every week. So I think he's a must, obviously.
Yeah, there's no doubt about Nathan at all this year. I think I got it said. I'm going to say it in one sentence: it's Nathan Cleary. He's a must-have. You can't any pot him.
Yeah, completely
Yeah,
agree.
it's
The bin the chin rhetoric's kind of it's in the past now. He's literally coming in the cheapest he's come in for the last 3 years, and his injury is the only concern. Outside of that, he doesn't have Luai now. He has an even less experienced half next to him. He'll be dominating the playmaking. I think
yeah,
he's just there. You just lock him in.
yeah,
No
lock him
brainer.
in. Next player we have is Isaiah Yo. He's in my team as at the moment. I think he's in yours as well, Will. But I've picked him over Payne Haas just because of consistency and the amount of games this bloke plays. If we look here, 2024, I think that's every game you could possibly play. He doesn't get injured. Absolute workhorse, averages 37 tackles a game with zero point 0.6 misses, which is nuts. So that's why I picked him over Payne, and he still averages 65. So I think he's not a must, but if you need a gun mid, he's your man.
You start us off, Jai.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, I think we spoke about this just before we jumped on the recording. And I'm definitely considering Yo as must have even with Cleary in the side this year. One little note there is I think him and Haas is a no contest now with the rhetoric that
Mm,
Carrigan could potentially be starting in a prop, which is going to change the
yeah,
whole rotation of that forward pack. And I think if this is a bit of a narrative driven perspective, but I think it has some weight to it, is that Payne Haas has essentially been playing injured for nearly 3 years, and he goes through periods where he needs a couple of games out. He'll play with an injury. He's never been at his full potential, still busting out these massive fantasy scores. But Madge has a bit of a habit as a coach of coming in and just restructuring teams and noticing problems that need to be fixed. He did it with the Blues and had no hesitation in picking a team that was in form heading into the Origin series, and that proved to be well. And I think the idea of bringing in Patrick Carrigan into the prop rotation could be to reduce the workload on both of them so that they have a more sustained output through the season. And if Payne Haas loses 10 minutes a game, I think that nerfs his value enough to make him not even worthy of being considered alongside Yo anymore.
Yeah, I could not agree more with what you just said.
I guess
865k, I still think that's a little under as well. He could, yeah, easily get to 950. But
I will do a bit more with Luai gone too, I think. Ball playing wise. Might go at
Mm,
first receiver
mm,
now, even though he was already there, but like yeah.
yeah, yeah, I can
yeah.
see that.
Next player, our last, I think last or second last buy, we've got Peter Mamouzelos. And if you just go here, filter by position, hooker, starting hooker, this bloke averages 50 from 70 minutes. And I could easily see Mamouzelos getting 65 to 70 with Havili, who's clearly out of favour. Um, he might not even play hooker, so I don't think he has much contention with Damien Cook leaving. So I reckon you could expect a 50 to 55 average from Mamouzelos. And at for 319k, he's almost a must-have. So what do you both think?
Well, I really
What do
like
you guys think?
Mamazulis. I think you got to go him over Moser just because he's more likely to get the position and he's kind of done it before. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm all for him here. What do you think, Joey?
Yeah, he's been bled into the position now for a few years, like coached in by Cookie. Cookie's gone now. Even if he has competition on the bench alongside him or someone taking minutes from him, he's only playing 60. Like you can see there's some in his minutes rotation. He can sometimes hit like those 60-minute games coming off the interchange. But I don't know. I think there's a potential there for him to play 60 to 80. And regardless, his PPM is strong enough for a hooker to he's going to make certain value, so he should definitely be on your side.
Yeah, you can see here, minutes over 50. There's half of them he's coming off the bench and he's still getting averaging 41 points, which for someone that cheap, it's still really solid. Like you're gonna make a lot of money there. And that's what I really like about him. So I think he's not a lock, but he's getting very close to it. We just need to wait for trials, I guess, but he's a great player to have.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
moving on, we've got our last buy. We've got Isaiah Papali'i, which I'm a big fan of. New move to Penrith, and Penrith always brings out the best in people. So we think he's going to play lock. And look at
Not lock
he
edge.
didn't have a great 2024, a bit injury ridden, and he has those two outliers you see at the back end of the season. Well, not back end of his season, and he still averaged 44 in a pretty average Tigers team. And I do like him at the Panthers. And you see here, second row, full career averages 52, and I think he could easily exceed that this year. So, what do you guys reckon about Isaiah Paps?
Thanks
I'm
for
so high on him, eh? Yeah, he's in my
Mm,
team. Um, he, I think he's had a consequence of regression simply with playing in the Tigers as a weaker side. Him going to
yeah,
literally from the team that was Spooners in 2024 to the team four-time premiers in the last 4 years with the Panthers. There's also rhetoric that they're looking to trial Liam Martin in the prop rotation and reduce his minutes
mm,
on the edge, which takes away a lot of that competition. There was a bit of worry there with Papali'i starting on the edge that Sorensen and Garner and Liam Martin were all going to compete too much for the points, the minutes, sorry, in the pack. So I think now that that's kind of been discussed as possibly not happening, Papali'i is only his stocks are just going up.
yeah.
yeah, I think we saw what he
Anything
did
from
with
you, Will?
good Eels outfit and the Panthers are better than what the Eels were back then. I think a couple attacking stats play next to Cleary. Nothing that's as much as you can pretty much say, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to the avoids. First up, we have Zach Hosking with pretty sure a calf injury is what he has, which means I'm not too keen on him if he's injured, obviously. But let's see here. 2023, we know what this bloke can do at edge. He averaged 48 in 2023. And then, oh, he didn't play much at 2022, but averaged 61. We know what he can do when he's fit, but I think the calf injury obviously puts him um, out of that rotation in your side. So, yeah, for our first avoid. What do you reckon, Jai?
Yeah, I'm off him as well. UK import Matty Nicholson as well on the bench. He's a start. If you haven't checked his highlights, like definitely check into those. That he's going to take
Yeah.
some time off Hosking because Hudson Young's going to stay as 80 minutes. So I think you could probably back in Hosking for about 80 minutes. Now he's got another injury on top of an injury-affected season. There was a bit of stat checking I did on Hosking on a write-up for our page, which was that I've predicted he's come in price at like that 36.5, price at 43 with a 36.5 average. Yeah, he's hit massive ceilings in the 90s before. So like he can go huge if he has the minutes to do it. But an interesting stat that I found was when he plays in games specifically just over 50 minutes, the average is 71. But in games played over 50 minutes but under 70 in a 10-game sample size, the average is 43.7, which is literally zero point 0.1
Wow.
higher than his current average. So I've got
Yeah.
him listed as a risk on ours, and there's no way I'm buying him to start the year.
Yeah. I have seen a few people with Hosking in their team. So if you are watching this, I'd maybe consider. Because what, Isaiah Papali'i's an extra what? Is he in
40,
620 around that?
yeah,
What is
40K.
Papali'i? 620?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
50.
extra 40K. Like you should be able to fit that in and you're getting a guaranteed starter almost in a much better team. So if you can make the move, I would.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah,
with
next
you guys.
player, avoid. We've got Teague Wilton here. Jai brought this one up, and I actually have not even even thought about Teague Wilton because he's that much of an avoid. Like this bloke is a absolute beast at averaging 40, is my view. So what do you reckon, Jai? Why is he an avoid for you?
I'm just looking for something I did as a write-up on him in our
Okay.
blindside Facebook subscription. That off the top of my head, essentially, he doesn't have a high enough ceiling to justify his floor. Like he can floor in the low 30s, and his ceiling, he's
Yeah.
only scored 63 times in his entire career, and I just don't see him getting enough of that 60 range to cancel out the low scores that he can get. And as a Sharks fan myself, he's also really bad at ball security close to the line. So like as soon as he impacts the defensive line, he tends to drop a lot of ball. Like it really pisses me off. So I don't think that not only in fantasy does that nerf his ability to score a try or to make a line break or a tackle bust, he compounds that with a drop ball or an error, so he gets -2 instead of like a +8, and this just consistently happens. And when I looked at his stat history, what I noticed was that he seems to, when he makes errors or missed tackles in games, he tends to do it all at once. So it'll be like penalties, errors, missed tackles in the same game, which kind of suggests to me he might be a bit of a confidence player. And I he's way too high priced for me to jump in on him. I'd like to see him more or less around where Tuolagi is
Yeah.
Kelmataulangi. I think I pronounced his name
Yeah.
with Blazer's name, but yeah, I want to see him at that price range before I consider him.
If you look here, his run from round 10 to round 19, even though he missed 6 rounds, 45, 46, 30, 47, 23. Like that. And then a 54, which is great. And then a 36. He's sort of an up and down player. And like you said, only 3 scores above 60, which really, for a guy 600K, really isn't great. And like
Yeah,
we just said before, you can also upgrade to Isaiah Papali'i for an extra 20K. Like
yeah,
it's pretty
the
easy.
better position than that. The other thing to add
Yeah.
too is that all of those games there where he hits over 50 plus, it tends to be when Hines is in control of the game management as predominant.
Mm.
Sorry, when Trindle is in control of the game management predominantly, and we don't really know how that's going to shake out this year. So if Hines is back in the seven, then he's a definite no. If Trindle's in the seven, then there could be an argument there for him. But I don't know. Like you said, probably is 20K more, 30K more
Yeah.
expensive. Just go him.
Exactly. Next avoid we have is Lachlan Galvin, which he's he's almost he's risk. He's a risky one. He's not straight off an avoid, but I'd say he gets more of an avoid now that Luai has joined the team, as they both are very ball dominant, and it could be a bit conflicting for both of them. That's why I think Luai and Galvin are possibly a wait and see kind of thing. But what do you think, Will? What do you reckon
I,
about
I think he's a
Galvin?
clear avoid. You got players like Cam Munster who's cheaper than him for 100K less, or you can even go up with another 20K to the main halfbacks in DCE, Moses, Burton, Fogarty. Like I think that he doesn't goal kick. He is going to lose a bit of kicking meters. His base is good, but I don't really think he can compete with what he did last year, and he won't be have to do everything for the Tigers like he did last year. And Luai will take a bit of the shine off of him. So I think he's very overpriced. And the only way I'm looking at him is if he can get down to 400k and go on a bad run before he goes on a good one.
Yep. Anything to add, Jai?
Yeah, it's pretty much says it all there. He's in the avoid basket for me as well. Him and Luai are just going to cannibalize each other. It's going to be no different with, say, like Adam Reynolds and Ben Hunt at the Broncos. Like they're just going to eat at each other with the shared game management compared to their last season. And essentially, you have to look at it as: do you want Lachlan Galvin as the main ball player? He's valued at 695. If you want him sharing the duties, he's going to lose value. That's as simple as I'm looking at it. So yeah, I'm not going to take a punt there.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Next avoid we have is Reece Walsh, which I don't think I've ever owned Reece Walsh in my fantasy team, which could hurt me, but it also can't when he gets 2 points and gets injured, which he does every 3 games. So I'm not a big fan of Reece Walsh. That's why he's in our avoid. 700k, I think, is way too much for him. You can see he averages 50. He averaged 50 last year with a 2 pointer, which is all good and all. But I do think he's a bit of an up and down player. But at his best, he's very good. What do you reckon about him, Jai? What do you reckon?
Yeah, he's very reliant on tries to score big points, and to me, he doesn't have the goal kicking to solidify that base with Adam Reynolds in the side. So you've got to rely on so many factors to get the best out of him more consistently. Because it'll be interesting to see if we deep dive into those stats more. Like it take too long to do it on the video, but if you deep dive into those stats more, where all of his big scores in there were they when Adam Reynolds was injured, and was he kicking goals? And I think then it changes the landscape a bit. I see him as like a Latrell Mitchell, but with a lower floor and lesser upside, and you pay 100k more and you can get Latrell Mitchell, or 30k more and you can get Caleb Ponga. So yeah, he's a massive avoid. I wouldn't even roll the dice on him at all.
Yeah, I agree. Um, Next avoid might be controversial for some Eels fans, but not controversial for me at all. Mitchell Moses, 700k, you'd be thinking, oh, he's underpriced. He is, but he's underpriced for a reason. Only playing what's that, about 9, 10 games last year with an injury. And you can see here average 49 with some very nice high scores, and then half of them high, half of them extremely low. And I've never been keen on Moses. I think he's too up and down. And you can see here 67, 57, 38, and then two good ones, and then an 18 from 76 minutes, which you can't have a player at that price where you can't trust if he's going to pump out a good score every week. So, what do you reckon about Mitch, Will?
Which is an interesting one. I reckon he'd be one of the better half to go with. He does goal kick and play, and I do think with them looking like they have a better team this year, Mitch could go interesting. I do think that Mitch is a very good player, but again, a little bit injured. We all knew what he could do in Origin, but that up and down nature for me is just it's what you got to accept with Mitch. He goes from 80 to 20, and I think if you're going with Mitch, yeah, you got to accept that. But I'd go for Munster and Cleary both over Mitch, and the DCE over Mitch too.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything to add, Jai, there?
Yeah, rhetoric in the preseason is that Zach Lomax might be taking over the kicking, which doesn't elevate Zach Lomax at all because he had the kicking at the Dragons, and it definitely takes away from the security at the base. Like I can see there from goals, like he averages 2.4 in 2024 goals per game. So take that average down. He's priced in here at 50 based on NRL Fantasy stats with an average of 49. He's literally there negative 3 points of value just based on these stats here without the goal kicking. So and I think the narrative behind Lomax taking the goal kicking is backed up because of his injuries. I think that Jason Riles will be looking to take a little bit of that load off him so that he can hopefully sustain more longevity through the season. So yeah, he's an avoid for me. He used to be such a stud, but yeah, I can't put him in that range anymore.
Yeah. Next player, is this an avoid? No, we're into the pods now. Our first pod is Jareem Buller, who Jai has introduced to us. I haven't really thought about Jareem Buller, so what do you reckon about him, Jai, and why is he a pod for you?
Oh, dude, I'm so high on him. Like, as Will will tell you in that last little potty we did for the Tigers breakdown for blindside. Like, my God, he's. My opinion is that he averaged 38 last year and has consistently seen that average since his inception at in the NRL level. But it's always been with literally the Tigers team coming last. So I think that if the Tigers push the top eight this year, which I'm predicting them finishing at eighth, that they have Buller at fullback. We forget they got Olamandui in the centres, Taruba, Skelton on the wings. You got Luai, Galvin in the halves, Api Coruscant, Terrell May, Royce Hunt. Like, these guys are star-studded for 2025. And I think that what you'll see is as the Tigers move up the ladder in terms of performance, Buller will rise up in terms of fantasy value. And I just think he's a massive risk at 525K. But I always kind of take these players. I took Ryan Pappenhausen a couple of years ago, but the year he got real badly injured and didn't work. But then last year I took on Jacob Carraz and kept him the whole year, and he ended up being a stud. So he's just dream ball as my next one for this year. Yeah, I'm backing him in for a massive year.
Yeah. With the Will, actually, you're a massive Tigers fan. What do you reckon about Buller? What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I really like Buller. I think he's an extremely good player, Buller, but and I do think he will increase in value with the better forward pack and Luai to increase him up here. And yeah, I think Buller is one that maybe you could anti-pod Latrell Mitchell with and have maybe that gun fullback down the thing. The only thing for me is over the other fullbacks like your Guffos, maybe your Lomaxes who can play fullback, your Pongers, your Latrells, your Garricks, he doesn't goal kick. Is the only thing for me.
Yeah. Moving on, next pod. I've put this one in as a Cowboys fan, but I think it's with good reason. Got Ruben Cotter here, 670K. And you see we got playing at lock over 60 minutes. He averages 55 points from 66 minutes. And if you go over 70 minutes, which you probably won't play, oh, okay. Uh, yeah, he seems to get the low scores when he gets over 70 minutes. But I could see Ruben Cotter playing 60 to 70 minutes, and that average 55, I reckon, could increase this year as the Cowboys have lost some very senior players like Townsend and Kyle Felt, which means Ruben Cotter will have to step up, and that will increase his output dramatically. So I think he could average anywhere from 60, early 60s, mid 60s. What do you guys reckon?
You go first,
Mm,
Joe.
I'd say the time. Yeah, I'd say the time to buy him would be the start of the season if you're going to invest there at all. You can see here from the stats, he's hit 724K in 2024 as his peak. And I remember from last year, he was one of the only players that held value over the origin period as like an origin player. So that's definitely in his favor. Mm, I don't know. He's risky. I think he'll definitely take on more responsibility, but does that harm his longevity through the season? Like, is he going to have increased injury risk? Will they look to rest him and things like that? That's kind of why I argue maybe the time to buy him is the start of the year when he's fresh. But it's a good shout. He'll be potty for sure.
Yeah, I think he'll be
Yeah.
a massive pod. With Tamalolo probably going down in minutes, I think that Cotter will probably have to get more, which is the only reason I'd be interested in him and at a discount for what Cotter can do too.
Mm. Yeah, right. Moving on, another pod, Matt Burton. He's pretty high priced, but if you look at his minutes, well, not minutes, his scores from 2024, played the full season really, and averaged 54 at 5'8". That's superb. With it is inflated by this one game here, but an average try, he scores an average of almost 0.5 tries a game, which is 1 and 2, which is absolutely ridiculous for a half. And yeah, big goal kicker, heaps of kick meters. He's a great he's a great point of difference, I'd say. What do you reckon, Jai?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And his scoring output changed and increased pretty significantly when they dropped Hutchinson and brought in Toby Sexton. And I think if Sexton and him, after a bit of a season and that cohesion together in 2024, starting from round one in 2025, I could see him breaking into that 750K range. I don't want to put him up there too high, but I think he's got that a little bit of that volatility as a half with goal kicking that the goal kicking is what saves him from falling into high 30s, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think 40s isn't you. You kind of want high 40s, mid 60s, which is the Fogarty side of things. But Burton, he has all that potential. I think he's definitely undervalued to start the year, in my opinion. I have him projected to average 58 this year.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Matt Burton, great player. One of our pods. Our next pod, we'll skip over Starling as we're running out of time a little, but you know what Starling did last year, as you can see. Next player, Jacob Preston. 695K, absolute breakout year in the last 2 years. Last year averaging 50, oh, that's 2023 and 4. For 2 years, averaging 54 from 75 minutes with a try every 3 games, let's call it. An absolute beast on the edge, makes heaps of tackles, 38.9 with an average miss of 1.7. That's crazy efficiency. So I'm keen on Preston if you want one of those gun edges. What do you guys reckon about Jacob?
Oh, I don't think you can go with Jacob Dish to start with when I think you already got so much value in the edge like Howarth and Papali'i, Fino Fuiaki, John Bateman, Jack Bird, but definitely a very good antipod to Papali'i. Olakawatu, I would even go over him just because he hasn't really been a proven gun. Like he's always been around the 55 to 55 to 45. So yeah, for me, I'm probably going to let Jacob Preston go straight through to the keeper.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, we'll just move on to the next player. The next two are some interesting ones. We've got Cam Murray, and Will, you're a big fan of Cam, so how about you explain why he's a pot in your eyes?
Well, I just think Cam, with Ewan Aiken playing at coming to there now, it really does solidify their edge position with Ewan and Keon. So I think Cam will have to play 65 to 70 minutes through the middle now, and the Wayne Bennett factor, it's available. When was the last? What was the last year Wayne was at the Rabbitohs? Was it 2022 or 2021?
Oh,
Or was he there
yeah,
before he went to Dolphins?
Yeah, I think it was 22.
Yeah, 22, I'd
Yeah,
say, yeah, because I think Dolphins
filter his
went into.
stats by 2022, I think you see a massive increase just where Cam's back to his best, see an
look at
average of
that.
70 there. The Wayne factor played 76.5 minutes. I think he's so massive for them, and he's a proven gun if he can keep those numbers up. I think I've said enough said. The Wayne
Yeah,
factor.
enough said. Yeah, 737K. If you can average, like you see there, above 70 minutes, 70 points, that is completely justified with money to make. So our next player in our last pod, we've got Api Coruscant, who is actually, I'm pretty sure he's out for round one due to suspension, but afterwards, he is a tasty hooker. I've had him in my team, and I will probably have him in my team at some point. Let's just have a look at his season 2024. Average 45 with a 12-point round, with 12-point score, mid 30s. But I think that that season could potentially be an outlier for him with all these new players, these better players. He's going to have a lot more spine to feed pills to. So I reckon his average could easily skyrocket to 50, early 50s, mid 50s. What do you reckon, Will and Jai?
Yeah, I'm big on Appy. I think that you see what he did at Panthers, and yeah, he's a very good player. Appy, with if he gets those missed tackle numbers down, which I think he will now that he has the two bigger forwards in Terrell May and Royce Hunt playing there. I think you see it happen at the Bulldogs where they don't have massive uh big forward props, and you see that really Marnie misses a lot of tackles now with them not having massive props. I think you get those numbers down, he goal kicks on a better team. I think it's all screaming happy as a buy, and yeah, what do you think, Jai?
Yeah, I love the sound of Abbey. To be honest, I think he's a bit risky compared to, say, like you wouldn't look over him, you wouldn't pick him over, say, Marmazelis or something like that with like solid, guaranteed value essentially. But I think his prospects are similar to that of Buller. The reason he's been so down is because of playing in a poor side, and as the side improves, he's going to be a focal point of that attacking upside. And if he's got bigger bodies around him, like you just alluded to, he's going to have a bit more. He won't have to rush out and do those hits without sticking and miss tackles. So I think he's going to have a lot more security around him. I'm definitely considering him, to be honest. I just don't know. I'm more high on Connor Watson myself.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Connor Watson is what 700 and something K, but look,
660, I
you're
think.
paying
He came
660.
in
Wow.
63,
You're
yeah, and he'll
paying for
get.
an absolute yeah, you're paying for an absolute proven gun in Connor Watson in a very solid Roosters team. So yeah, if you want to spend the extra 70K, there's your man. But that's all we got for you today, fellas. That's our last pod. So just want to say a big thank you for Jai for hopping on. First one of the year. Hopefully many more to come. You've been great. And also Will, thanks for coming on as well. Hope you enjoyed the video, fellas. We were gonna get to team analysis, but we have another video coming out tomorrow, and we'll
So,
include all three of our teams and yours as well, Jai. So stay tuned for that.
yeah.
All right.
Cheers, boys.
Epic.
Have a good one.
But yeah, thanks for having me.